move the light a bit to here. Yeah, that's better. Going to pop up on the screen there. All right, I see a few people already here and a like. That's nice. All right, it's me. I'm live. It's the Nazarite, bringing you Hebrew lore from days of yore. I hope that the week has begun in a blessed way for you all. This place. All right, I have some chai tea with me right now. Still too hot, but I will be partaking of it. I grabbed a green mint, but then I was like, no. Green tea and mint. And I was like, no, chai. Two of them fell, and I picked that one up. Okay. Ariel Marshall said, took one look at the video thumbnail and immediately the words, "Here's Yoni," came to mind. My buddy, the light-bringing star that's always shining. Thank you, I appreciate that. It was a spontaneous, silly face, and even though there's a glare from my lens, I decided to keep it anyway. 2-hour notice, Sneezer says. Shalom, everyone. Shalom indeed. Peace, greetings, salutations. Dem some nice chompers, said Sneezer about the thumbnail. He continued and said, my stepfather was a 34th degree, at least we left before he died, at least 34, we left before he died, Freemason. So mine is only second-hand from childhood. What do you mean, you are what? You're chompers? Am I missing something here? I don't know, but the Freemasons supposedly go back to the time of Solomon, right? And Hiram of Tzor. Awesome thumbnail, said Robert. Thank you, Robert. He says, just got back from Alaska. Very cool. So, I mean, you had a job there, and how long were you there? How long were you gone? Did you drive? Did you fly? Did you... Well, not yourself. I mean, did you fly? That could be. Only one like so far? Me, said Sneezer. Yes, yes. Thank you for the like. I appreciate it. All right, let's go with some comments that came in the last few days. Carlos Pomerigio said, the people that wish for Jews to evacuate the land of Israel are hypocrites. America is the land of the Apache, Cherokee, Iroquois, Lakota, Navajo, Oneida, Zuni, and many, many other native tribes. How many of these pro-Pali protesters, he asks, are willing to pack up and leave the United States and go back to their European homelands? Shalom. Carlos makes a point, and I told him it all goes according to the time frame and lens through which anyone views this conflict, this situation. And I told him, peace, no more war, may it be taken away. War and bloodshed, may it be all taken away right now at this very moment. Just lifted out of creation. Oy. All right. So Nezer says, as for Carlos the Jackal, right, which you mentioned last time, he was a Cuban working for the KGB, right? That's the Soviet Secret Service, or not Secret Service, the espionage, right? The secret police. And Mossad, he said. With KGB and Mossad. So what, Carlos was a double agent? To perform attacks to be blamed on Israel's adversaries. To give them an excuse to retaliate. Wikipedia isn't research. Well, yes, it's not research. All I said when you asked, what do you know of Carlos the Jackal, did you look him up? And I said, all I did so far is read the Wikipedia. Obviously, that's not research. What you want to do is go down there and read the sources. That's more of research. Yeah, it's more research-oriented. So this whole thing of the, right, what would it be, intelligence and counterintelligence, that it's this big game of chess. I'm not a chess player. I'm more into backgammon. I like poker. But I have such a narrow view. I'm just one little dumbass in the Middle East. And the organizations like the KGB and the Mossad, these attacks they perform, whether to be blamed on Israel's adversaries or whether to be blamed on Israel or I don't know what. The Soviet Union fell, fine, the point still stands. So it was to give them an excuse to retaliate. It reminds me of Samson, right? Samson, when his parents told him, why is it that you want to go take a foreign woman to be your wife? And it says, "Velo yadu ki to'ana," right? "Me'adonai hadavar." It was from Adonai, in order for things to turn out the way they did, and for Samson to, well, be who he was in the book of Judges. For better or worse, he kicked some ass. Okay, let's see. So Nezer continued from responding to BMXers with dreadlocks, and he said, "I have a blood brother in Yemen who's never had a problem with Israel or Jews until Trump started the retaliation." Well, okay, it's good that he didn't have any problem with Israel or Jews. And so he sees this Trump-Israel alliance as a reason to go after and have a problem with Israel or Jews. It's like the friend of my enemy is my enemy. Is that what it is? Let's go to the chat. Is there anything there? El Hanan Bear. Hello, El Hanan. BMXers is here. You flew.
The friend of my enemy
is my enemy.
Ugh, let's say, you people, you're my enemy.
Dude. Robert says, went to the Prince of Wales Island. Boy, you could see the fingerprint of God there. The fingerprint of God. I like that. I like that very much. Wonderfully phrased, Robert. Thanks for that. Laila Tov, Chaver. Laila Tov, El Hanan. Erev Tov. What is it, baby?
You're her enemy, you're my enemy. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. She's my friend.
Go on.
Yes,
that's the phrase.
Oh.
That's the phrase. But I turned it. I turned the phrase.
Ah, the friend of my enemy
is my enemy.
Friend. That makes sense.
Yes, but it's a turn of phrase.
And the enemy of my friend.
Sneezer says, I rarely refuse a game of chess. Go on the other hand, I'm not so good at. Go. I'm trying to remember. Is it a board game? Have I played it? I wonder. There she goes, BMXer says. There she goes again. Sneezer says, Carlos, at least you've read it and will consider it. I'm open to disproof. I think it would be a lot for me to research before I have any opinion on, because these are things that are, look, like I said always recently, by the time it comes to my screen, my newspaper, my outlet of media, however it gets to me, by the time it comes to me, it's already propaganda. Justified, unjustified, left, right, center, whatever it is, whatever spectrum of the political blah, 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 it's propaganda already. It's somebody, it's an editor, it's an agenda, it's contributors, it's backers, it's founders, it's lobbyists, it's propaganda by the time it comes to me. Yemen supports Gaza. Well, do you differentiate Yemen and the Yemen leadership, the regime that's currently there? The people, look, there were a lot of Jews in Yemen before they were driven out or indirectly driven out. I don't know. I didn't live there, but in those days after the State of Israel, particularly after the State of Israel was established, there was a great migration for different reasons from the Mizrahi Arab nations, right? Libya, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Jordan, others. And people call it an ethnic cleansing. There are barely any Jews left in those places, sometimes zero, if I'm not mistaken, or close to zero. And it's important to differentiate between the people and the leadership. It's important, but sometimes they are indistinguishable. All I have is my view, and I don't know enough about what's going on in Yemen. But if you say they support Gaza, I will say, cool. Do they support Hamas? That's not necessarily the same thing. If they support Hamas, I'm not for it. If they support the Gazans and their right, let's say, for self-determination and a state and all that, then I can get on board with that. Sneezer says, and my brother knows it's not personal, but he's still getting bombed by them. Yes, it's not personal, but he's getting bombed. That is the reality of war. That's awful. Every time. And innocent lives are lost, and lives are ruined, and all of that horrible, horrible crap. She broke my heart. I want to be sedated. All I wanted was to see her naked, says BMXers, quoting, I don't know the song. Is it the same song? I knew the melody for that part, but I don't recall offhand what it is. Go is like Chinese chess. I know it as Chinese checkers. Is it the six-pointed star where you set up the balls and you need to go one over the other and place them directly in front of the other triangle that's facing you? Is that it? I know it as Chinese checkers. There is no. Well, people, do you know it as Chinese checkers or Chinese chess? What I described, right? Six triangles. You go through the middle. Can't wait to see Jerry Seinfeld, says Robert. Rob, is he still alive? Asks Sneezer. He's alive and kicking. I quote him sometimes, a wonderful quote, when talking about the conflict, right? Years ago. And he said, it's a conflict, it's like, I don't remember the precise context, but the line I love to quote is, if you're funny, I'm interested. If you're not funny, I'm not interested. It's like, yeah, you can bring up the conflict. Can you be funny about it? Can you do it? Can you have a sense of humor? Not about war, bloodshed, and tragedy, but if you're going to talk about this ongoing thing, right? You gotta be able to laugh at yourself and the situation, or obviously everything has its time and place. Some tact will go a long way. Yes, so I mentioned this. My woman, the week of my birthday a few years back, many years back, I don't remember. We went to see Jerry Seinfeld in Tel Aviv. It was lovely. And Jeffrey Ross? No, not Jeffrey Ross. Jeff Ross opened for him, and that was great. Who was that in the background? My firstborn, the Crown Prince.
What?
Exactly. BMXer says, I want to tell y'all, and especially Robert, something. All right? Type it up, and we will see. HN, Sneezer says, but there are things that affect you, even control your life. Well, I don't remember exactly. This was written 4 minutes ago. I don't remember where I was in the. Okay, we're talking about. Yes, they do affect me. Some would say that again, this is something I'm simply turning a blind eye to and being willfully ignorant about. It's propaganda and it still affects my life. Yes, and I try as much as I can to keep it in the scope of my life and my surroundings. It has a selfish element to it, granted, but it helps keep me sane and grounded. If I start reading more news regularly, if I start consuming opinions and commentaries, if I start reading the pro-Palestinian newspapers and media outlets, and if I think that I wouldn't be able to. I think it would be very difficult. I mean, logistically, and to actually absorb the information, right? I got kids and a newborn, and it's not something I can't wrap my head around it even in theory, because it would necessitate me to go deep into the belly of the beast, into that storm of information, misinformation, disinformation. So yes, does it affect my life? Yes. I do what I can in the scope of my life, as narrow and foolish as it is, to act that way. Okay. Adil Iqbal Ahmed Chowdhury. Hello, good evening to you. It was evitable from oppressed. I'm assuming he says that it was inevitable due to oppression, to which I would say oppression there was brought on by the wars that were instigated and the terrorist groups which were there and took hold and leadership and were allowed to prosper. And you can say that it was Israel who contributed to the prosperous terrorist groups, trying to turn them against each other, destabilizing the area through a civil unrest. I don't know what. Again, these are things that are chess. I don't think 10 moves ahead. I'm not intelligent enough, I think, to be able to decipher things. The lens of history is there, but it's written by the victors. I'm biased, having grown up here, born here, raised here. I can't pretend I'm not. I served in the IDF until a few years ago when I was discharged from the reserves, and I would go back if I'm called back. May it not need to come to that. So I try to be objective about many things. There are some things which I know from the get-go I can't be objective about, and I can't fool myself into thinking, oh, yes, no, because there's an element of faith, there's an element of, well, let's say growing up here and growing up religious in Jerusalem, right? modern Orthodox in Jerusalem, and that is a sort of indoctrination for better or worse. And I can't. So that's what I have to say about that. Sneezer says Yemen doesn't really have leadership right now, are overrun by Houthi rebels. Overrun, really? I mean, the government is so. I mean, look, I know that many people have been slaughtered there, and there is a civil war going on. But I didn't know that there was no leadership. I thought that there was a conflict, skirmish, war, battles going on in different places, and I thought that the leadership is fighting against the Houthis. Was I mistaken? I mean, and are they losing? Is that what you're telling me? And there's no leadership right now. So there is, but de facto they're not leading anywhere. They're busy surviving, I suppose. Very bad people, said Sneezer. XRP, hey, nice to see you again, man. XRP says, y'all being tricked to settle a land for Britain. Well, look, the British mandate that was here had Britain's interests, first and foremost, right, in front of them. And they did what they did with Jordan. They tried to do what they did here. And I think that since it is the ancestral homeland and we maintain presence here, however small, throughout all the generations since the fall of the Second Temple, at least historically, I can't say I'm... Anyway, there was a Hebrew presence here throughout all those times. To settle a land for Britain, then why would they then leave? If it was supposed to be part of the British Empire and stay part of that empire, let's say, then why would they leave, God save the king. Allahu Akbar, God is greater or great, right? Kabir is great, Akbar is greater, if I'm not mistaken. And that's something I take issue with. Obviously, it's me with my narrow view. I don't speak Arabic. So, but Akbar, if I'm not mistaken, means greater. And I saw that as like, okay, great. Wouldn't great be enough? But no, there is greater. And I can understand that. But still, it always kind of like, irked me a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure why. Adil continues and says, Quran is the order of Allah. Read it before it's too late. Well, like I said, I'm probably very biased. And so, the Quran and Islam, I can't approach it objectively. I can't approach it tabula rasa, clean slate, no opinion, let's go. I can't. Whether it's through the lens of my experience growing up here, whether it's my experience growing up here, or whether it's history, I wouldn't be giving it a fair shot conceptually, maybe even like viscerally. I don't know what. I wouldn't be able to give it a proper look, truly a deep look, because there's so much. So I hope to better clear my mind in the positive sense of the term. So I would be able to approach Islam and the Quran from a more objective place and be able, if I want to, read it before it's too late. And if it is too late for me, then I will still be counting my blessings. Hey, Wolf is here. Wolf Sound, how's it going, my Hebrew? It's going well. If I can sit here Monday night in Jerusalem, in my own home, everybody is relatively safe and sound, no sirens going off, and I can do this with you good people and, discuss some ideas and maybe expand my knowledge a little bit, and then things are going exceedingly well. So well that I could plots from the amount of gratitude that I'm feeling right now, right here. And I thank you for joining me. It's a special thing. Each time I go live is pretty much a special thing. And I don't take it for granted. I don't take you people out there for granted. Those watching now, those watching later. It is a wonder. So that's how it's going. And I'm grateful and alive and streaming from Jerusalem. Still Me is here. Hello. Glad I'm here, he says. I'm glad you're here too. Thanks for sharing your thoughts and love. Well, it's pretty much all I've got. Love is what I got. All right, Sanizar says to Adil, I have read it. I have read the Quran and seen the truth in it, but I remain Christian. Jesus is king. Still says no go is different. Okay, so it's different from what I had described. So what I described was Chinese checkers, and there is also Chinese chess, which I may have encountered, but I don't remember it. Robert asks, would you say the best Nazarite in the Bible was Samuel? Well, I think the Nazarite vow is a personal thing, and each one does it for different reasons. So there is no best Nazarite. If there was a best way to go about it, then that would be one thing. But there are 4 types of Nazariteship, each one with its own path and rules. So I don't think there is a best Nazarite, but Shmuel, and also because traditionally I come from his line, Shmuel, the way that he came about, his beginning growing up with Eli the high priest in the tabernacle, it's what a way to grow up. What a mentor to have. So I don't know if it's the best, but definitely notable. Definitely notable. Well, obviously it's Shmuel. I mean, he was a lot like Moses in the sense that he was a Levite that performed certain priestly actions. Yeah, okay, let's keep it at that. Adil says, Allah saved Prophet Musa from the darkness of sea and made a path to cross and drowned Pharaoh. You mean Pharaoh? Yes, I believe that the prophet Moses made a path across the sea because God asked him to do it, so he did it. And yes, the Egyptians traditionally, according to the Torah, were drowned there. Pharaoh, I think, is still unsure among the scholars on whether or not he lived. Sneezer says, that's Chinese checkers what you described. Their chess is even more complex with only one piece for each side. One piece for each side that can make all the different moves. No, it's a different sort of chess. So never mind. They call it Chinese chess, but it's not any kind of chess. Okay. You know, the original chess, I know there are different ideas on what the origin is and how it came about. It's associated with Persia, if I'm not mistaken, right? Shachmat, that's what it is in Hebrew. Shah, like the Shah of Iran. Shachmat, the captured king or captured... Anyway, right now we have a king and queen on the chessboard. In earlier times, if I'm not mistaken, it was the king and the vizier, the consultant, right? Like Jafar to the sultan, right? Because, and then it became a queen. Interesting, eh? That it was a man but became a woman. And she's pretty powerful. Girl power. Wake up, says Adil. I hope to wake up. Yes, I do. Maybe a little bit more each day. Idiot! Yes, I am an idiot. It's good to be an idiot. It frees me from so many things. See yourself. Not taken baths since years. No, a bath? When was the last time I bathed? I bathed in the hot tub where we were on vacation a few weeks back for a few days. That was fun. And I love baths. I love making a bath nice and hot, drawing a bath, putting on music, dimming the lights, lighting up incense. I love taking my time. And I don't have a bath in this place. So I do love baths. But no, I showered before Shabbat, right? So what? Thursday or Friday was my last shower. But I haven't combed my hair or brushed it in years. That much is correct. But I have bathed. If I would not bathe, people would tell me, dude, you stink. Take a bath. At which point I would go, thanks for telling me. I'll go do that. Okay. Oh, as for seeing myself, you said to see yourself, not taken baths since years. I do wish to see myself. It is something that we can't really truly do. Just like physically we can't look into our own eyeball or whatever. We can look everywhere but, right, my face. I can't see my face. I can only see reflections and so on. Like I'm looking at the screen. It's So I can see my face, but I can't see it with my eyeballs. In that very same way, physically, right? You maybe can't see all of yourself always spiritually. So I do wish to see myself. If I could truly see myself more often, I would stop myself from doing stupid things. And that is a very good thing to do, if I say so myself. Stilney says, Go is an excellent game, very strategic and challenging. Sneezer says, Personally, I think John the Baptist was the best Nazarite. Right, a Christian or Messianic would, I'm sure, yeah. From the one time that I read the New Testament, it seems that he was a real upstanding character that did a lot for the people. Yes? XRP says, Jews are better off not... No, thank you, my dear. Jews are better off not settling in a global battlefield. Well, yes. But I have a feeling that no matter where we go, we would still be persecuted. History doesn't lie. Stands to reason that people would want to screw with us over and over and kill us, eradicate us, persecute us. My love for Hebrews tells me, he says, don't settle that land. It's not ready. It won't be ready in our lifetime. Many people hold that opinion. On the other hand, some people say, look, the baby's already born. You cannot stuff it into the womb. It's done. It's a reality. The state of Israel was established due to many reasons, not the least of which are actual legal reasons and which give it a sort of validity on an international legal basis. Not talking about settlements or anything. I'm talking about the original establishment and the things that led up to it and the Balfour Declaration and so on and so on. I understand that your love for the Hebrew people tells you, save yourself, get out of there, it's a war zone. Are you stupid? Go somewhere else. You can still worship God. You can still have that relationship. You can still rebuild. You can still be Hebrews. Do it somewhere else. What is your deal? Are you looking to get killed? No, we're not looking to get killed. But maybe before the state of Israel was established, it was an option. And now, after so much war and bloodshed, I'm afraid that it's here to stay. And yet, I will still mention something I mentioned in a stream a long time ago when this topic came up. And I said that I, on a personal level, would be willing to say, if all of the nations of the world agreed as one, unanimously, to not touch the Hebrews again, right, and not pick up a sword against us unless we provoke them, right, that they would be not the ones who will break the peace. If we have that assurance, I would leave this land, leave this city, leave my home, go with my people somewhere else, rebuild and prosper. Because Jerusalem, Israel, the temple, these are places. It's earth, right? It's those elements. It's a material thing that connects us spiritually, but it's still a material thing nonetheless. This material world that we have fallen into from Eden, so to speak. Eden is still there. We still have a job to do. Still we have the tree of life to partake of. And I'm about getting there, not with a shortcut, but I believe that getting there in peace and love is better than getting there in war and hate. And if we could really have that assurance, I would be willing to leave. That's it. That's my view. I would uproot myself for that kind of deal. I would. Because only on a personal level, right? I believe that there's a direct line between mankind and Adonai. And it's reachable pretty much whenever and wherever and whoever you are. You're made in the image of God. And the more that you explore the divine attributes, the more you can manifest them in your behavior, the more connected you are. Tanah Dev Eliyahu, a book of lore and law, so to speak, though not a book of halacha. Right? Eliyahu Hanavi, Elijah the prophet, is said to have said that he calls the heaven and earth as witnesses that according to one's deeds will the Holy Spirit, Ruach HaKodesh, not the Holy Spirit in the Christian sense, but the spirit of sacredness, a form of prophecy, a connection, a union, knowledge. According to a person's deeds, be they man or woman, slave or handmaid, Israel or nations, according to their deeds will the Spirit rest upon them. And that can happen in Israel, and it can happen in Africa, and it can happen wherever, pretty much wherever. Okay, BMXers says, there's a BMXer who's also a comedian. Does he do it at the same time? Cycling from the most southern point of the US to New York to raise money to buy 100 BMX bikes for kids, and was on the Joe Rogan show, and he also met a skateboarder. At the same time, two interviewees, or a different, so okay, a BMXer who's also a comedian, and he's doing this for kids. It's amazing the kind of things that people do with their lives. And I am sitting here like a... But I'm doing this right now. As small and insignificant though it may be, I'm not comparing myself to this person, obviously, but I usually try and gain perspective. And this is something that brings perspective, right? It's a sobering thing. Good for this guy. Makes people laugh, raising money for a BMXer, so he's got skill, and he's got humor, and he's got charitability. Good for him. Sounds like a stand-up dude. Wake up, man, says Adil. All right, wake me up. Telling me, read the Quran. Fair enough. Tell me, what is your connection to the Quran? What do you see it as? When will it be too late? And what will that entail? What will come after it's too late? I'm interested. Kyle retracted a message. Ariel says, battling a field full of blackberries currently. Battling a field? A believer in macroevolution, Ariel says, would claim that they evolved thorns as a form of protection. Yes, I've heard that about different vegetation. But in many cases, it makes them a target. Kinda reminds me, maybe he continued afterwards, kinda reminds me of militaries that think that having loads of weapons makes them safer. Look, there's no disputing that in some situations, firepower can make the difference. Really. But if you're going for strategy, then, the Tao Te Ching, what does Lao Tzu say? He says that the sage, without an army, can vanquish a city, or something along those lines. The sage without... something like that. I'm not sure. So militaries who think that having loads of weapons makes them safer. I don't know if that would make you safer, but I don't know enough, right? I don't know enough war philosophy, and I haven't studied enough battles in my life. But if you're battling a field of blackberries, I hope you take a few. If they are ripe to eat, I hope you take a few. Blackberries are lovely. Oh, so juicy. So lovely. Oh, I'm a fool for ignoring Quran. Wouldn't you say I have something of a good reason? I don't want to approach it from a biased and, war-torn country mentality place. I want to come at it from a place that's a lot more clear. You can't appreciate that? Fair enough. Or maybe you wrote that before I said what I said earlier. HN, said Sneezer, the truth would survive. You fear the truth for good reason. The truth would survive. You fear the truth for good reason. Well, look. If it's for a good reason, then it's not an excuse, but it is nevertheless a reason. And if we're talking about reason and rationality, in a place like this, once again, I'm not shirking my responsibility so lightheartedly or frivolously. No, not frivolously. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, I'm not doing it lightly. And I know that you've been saying I'm ignoring the truth, and I've stated myself that yes, I'm willfully blind and ignorant on certain things. It's part of what I want to bring in, and and things that I do and things that I don't. I believe that it's not for bad reasons. I'm not doing it in any way of, malevolence or, well, negativity. I'm trying to do my thing within the Hebrew faith for now, just on a personal level. And should the time come when that circle expands to Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, I don't know what, I would find a way to incorporate those wisdoms and those teachings, though perhaps not take on all the law. You know what I'm saying? Life will lead me where it is if I'm seeking, and I am seeking. And you might say, no, you're seeking within the very narrow domain of Torah, commandments, and the Hebrew faith, and that's very narrow. And I'm saying that narrow path is from the onset meant to expand one's mind, elevate one's spirit. And in doing that, right, that radius of understanding widens and strengthens. And if it leads me into other places, God knows. So I may fear the truth, but I'm not opposed to it. Another thing the Tao Te Ching writes, right? He says there, truth is not beauty, beauty is not truth, which reminds me of, right, Ode on a Grecian urn, right? Truth is beauty, beauty truth. I guess they can both coexist, those two sayings. All right. Oy. But if you say the truth would survive, we can agree on that, yes. Truth will out. Despite my ignorance, truth will out. Despite my insistence, my stubbornness, it will out. BMXers, Robert says, how's the youngest son doing? Bli Ain Ra, he is doing so well. He is such a good little baby. Ugh. Okay, BMXer says, a skateboarder who happened to skateboard across America from North Carolina, Robert, to California, says BMXers. So Joe Rogan had a BMXer and he had a skateboarder. Well, did they drop any nuggets of information on the Joe Rogan show? Let me know, I'm curious. Read Quran, says Adil. All right. Adil, how though? Kyle says. XRP says, am in the belly for you, brother. Please, please, please beg your Congress for a peace treaty. No, I'm not going to beg the Knesset for anything, but what I will do is vote in the next election, which I haven't done in about 2 decades. I will be voting in the next election, come hell or high water. I can't afford to ignore it anymore. Speaking of ignoring truth, I can't afford to say it's a dirty business, I don't want part of it. I can't afford it. Can't afford it. They need my vote. My stupid, dumbass vote. Yeah, Israel needs it in the next election. Ugh, this place. This place. What a divine comedy we're in. Okay. Sneezer says to Adil, he is not ready yet to read the Quran. His heart is biased. Yes, which I freely admit it could very well be. And it's not that I've tested this theory out. It's that I can, well, from what I said before. XRP, says BMXers, I think you have an agenda here. I'll work on it, don't worry, Sneezer says to Adil. All right, so at some point you two will get me to read the Quran. Good, I'm not opposed to it. The one tidbit I know from the Quran that I recall offhand is that in the story of the binding, it's not Isaac that's binded, it's Ishmael that's binded, which is very telling, right? We're the son that was bound. No, we were bound. No, we were bound. You will get all the truth answer in Quran. Okay, time will tell. Okay. XRP says, how long have I been on? 40 minutes, all right. Okay, let's see. Please, brother, he says, God will not allow so much blood spilling, nor the world. Our news shows a discontent at your country's humanism toward your enemies. Well, look, I'm not an apologist. I'm not a hasbara dude. I'm not speaking for Israel. I'm obviously aware that media all over the world shows you a specific narrative. Like I said, by the time it reaches the screen, it's propaganda, it's an agenda, it's an editor, it's ad companies, consultants, lobbyists, and so on and so on and so on. I understand the world's discontent. And I also understand very perfectly that there is not one nation in this great world of ours that would take what we took on October 7th and do absolutely nothing. And if you're going to judge a war by the amount of victims, you're an idiot. That's not how you judge a war. That's not how you judge who is the just and who is unjust in waging the war. That's not how. Okay. I mean, once again, Arabs slaughtered all over the world in the millions. Nobody bats an eye. It's just Muslims killing each other, whatever. No, those are people, those are families, those are lives. The world doesn't care. Israel? Yeah. Okay. So the world can take its discontentment, and so on and so forth. Sneezer says, yeah, and incidentally, I'm not saying Israel can survive without the world. Yeah. No, but I'm saying the world can do what the world always does. Okay. All right. All right. Sneezer says, the leader of Yemen left about 8 years ago. The Houthi have been gaining strength ever since and have basically lost. The government basically lost. Wow. So now it's just them, pardon me, just running out the clock until the Houthis take over? Oy, 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 oy. Okay. I hope that the peace-loving, innocent Yemenis get to live out their lives in peace and tranquility, have a future for their children and themselves. My God, all these terrorist groups, all these extreme fundamentalist groups. I'm just one little dude. Okay, Robert says, HN, what's one thing hilarious that happened to you today? Well, it's not hilarious, but I was on the bus with my woman, we were going somewhere, and a student driver in front of us stopped accidentally in the middle of a crosswalk. Now, what I caught when I turned my head, what I caught was a pedestrian who was about to cross, who started crossing, kicking the tire of the student driver, right? Kicking of the student's car, and being obviously angry, and walking off. And I'm thinking, you can see he's a student driver. I mean, I don't know what happened seconds beforehand. Maybe he made a mistake that's so asinine you couldn't even believe it. Nevertheless, it's a student driver. So I understand, it was an older guy, so maybe he was startled. I don't know. Like I said, I missed the first few seconds. It wasn't hilarious, like, ah! But I turned to my woman and I go, why would he kick the tire? He kicked the tire. He didn't bang on the hood. He didn't tap on the window. Why would he kick the tire? So that's not hilarious, but I found it amusing that he kicked the tire of the car. Okay. What's something hilarious or comedic or possibly funny that happened to you today, Robert, and the rest of you in the chat? There are 10 of you there right now, and 4 likes. I'm blessed. I'm thankful. Thank you for the views, the likes, the subs, the comments here, there, whenever. Those watching now, those watching at another time. I deeply appreciate your attention and your time and your input, your disparaging comments, your uplifting comments. I embrace them, and I thank you. Okay, let's continue here. BMXer says, by the way, they didn't plan that to meet or travel across the country at the same time. Oh, okay, so see, this is the missing piece of this puzzle. BMXer said that there was a BMXer and a skateboarder, and they were on the Joe Rogan show. I don't know if independently or together, but they met on the road as they were traveling at the same time. That you neglected to mention. That's not by the way. That's maybe I am not understanding the timeline in which BMXers is unraveling the story, or unrolling it rather, but Okay, so they met on the road doing their own thing individually, and then they went on the Joe Rogan show? All right, I got you. I'm with you. Sneezer says to Robert, I got told Christians are pagan. You got told Christians were pagan. Was it, oh, it was BMXers with dreadlocks who said Christians were pagan. Maybe the dictionary does differ on the definition, right? Maybe you have different dictionaries. XRP says, my agenda is peace and understanding. More power to you, man. More power to you. My generation has to hash out our differences in the name of God. From your lips to God's ears, as it says, though God has no ears. And that's a good agenda to have. It is peace and understanding. Our sages said there is no vessel that holds blessing more than peace. Meaning, if you have peace, it can hold so much on, right? It's a foundation so, well, it's a foundation so great and abundant that it can hold a lot of things atop of it. Many blessings can be built on the foundation of peace. May it come in our time, globally, worldwide, right now, at this very moment. Adil says, let's wait for the resurrection, everything for justice from Allah. Well, I think your idea of resurrection is not necessarily my idea of resurrection. My idea of resurrection, what's called Tchiyat HaMetim, is eating of the fruit of the tree of life, right? Returning to Eden, having completed this journey, this cycle within cycles, reaching back to Eden, ideally, God willing, as one unified human race in peace and harmony, and partaking of the fruit of the tree of life, thus removing the curse of death that was placed on us after we partook of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and cast into this place of good and evil. So the resurrection would be completing our original task from Eden, arriving at the Sabbath that never took place, the Edenic Sabbath. Oh, my God, my God, my God. Okay, as for justice from Allah, justice is an attribute that's very highly, closely associated with the final emanation called Malchut, or kingdom, that idea of the kingdom of God. And justice from Allah, I see that corresponding. So I'm on board with that. And the idea is that justice, right, according to Torah, represents the feminine, what's called Shekhinah, or the divine feminine presence, the feminine force. And it is then elevated, meaning that right now, it is in a somewhat lower position, meaning it's the thing that everything, all of the revelation of Adonai sort of kind of drains into that one place, that like the moon has no light of its own, but merely reflects the light that is being shined on it. And so Malchut, the divine feminine presence, justice, is something which will later be elevated and brought to its full potential, not down, but going up. So I hope for that too. As for let's wait for the resurrection, part of the idea of the Torah and the commandments is that you try to make that Eden here happen for you in your life. Right? For the Hebrew man and woman, it's with Torah and commandments. That's part of what we do our part, since we are part of Adam. We are part of that first couple in Eden, spiritually speaking. Well, that's all of mankind, but the Hebrew people have the Torah. That's what I'm saying there. As for hashing out the differences, yeah, to come to an understanding, what I try to do with this stream every single time is to try to find common ground. It's like, okay, fine, what can we agree on? Let's find a time frame that we can agree on. Let's find a set of circumstances or ideas or conceptions that we can agree on, a definition of this or that. Then we can start building on that. Building bridges, bit by bit. Bit by bit. XRP. Sneezer says to XRP, peace generally comes from understanding, and all are working towards peace here. Generally comes from understanding. Sometimes, and I had this conversation with my woman earlier today as well, where we were talking about war and peace, not the book, but the concepts. And when there is war in the world, I asked her, is the possibility of peace more apparent, paradoxically? She said no, and I said, possibly. Now, I'm influenced very much by Rav Kook and the things he said, because war does have that light at the end of the tunnel where when you're done with the war, there's the possibility of no more war. So even though you could reach that through love and understanding, in many cases, maybe generally, as opposed to what you said, it does come because of war. That ends the war. Can you call that real peace as opposed to coming to it through love and understanding and brotherhood and camaraderie? No, but I suppose it's all relative. So, but yes, peace comes from understanding, he said to XRP, and all are working towards peace here. Well, let's hope that we will be able to do our little bit, send out some good vibes, promote a little bit, even the tiniest bit of understanding of, well, brotherhood and camaraderie. Robert said to Sneezer, I don't know how to respond to that. That Christians are pagan. Okay. Mustafa, hello Mustafa, he says, so he didn't wipe out all the Jews. Oh no. Who didn't wipe out all the Jews? I'm not sure who you're talking about, but no, the Jews were never wiped out entirely, though we came close many a time. But no, the Jews were never wiped out entirely. The covenant persists, and the people persist. We are a thorn in the sides of many a country and many a people, or many a cultures, or I don't know, many religions, perhaps, but we're like a global pain in the ass to a lot of people. And no, people say we're like roaches. You can't wipe them out. So yeah. Sneezer says to Robert, carefully, the one who said it is watching. Sneezer says to Mustafa, impossible to wipe out all of anyone. Right? You know, Israel didn't do it with Amalek. Robert, what don't you think? I think you misunderstand me, he said to Robert. Okay. God made us all for a reason, Sneezer says. I'm inclined to agree. That reason might suck, but we have a reason, we have a purpose. I'm very fond of what David Data says in The Way of the Superior Man, where he calls it the gift that you're giving to the world. It's like you have a gift to give to the world, something unique, something personal, something that could not exist without you, and that you play a specific part, you serve a specific, right? You have something to give to the world, and if you deny that to the world is that much, let's say, darker or lacking. And you yourself can't see, won't live to see what you could truly do and who you could truly be and how great a gift it might be able to become over time. And he speaks there about, right, being a superior man. That doesn't mean put other people down or think that other people are beneath you. Quite the contrary. It's to know, right? It's to know to be you in your time and place and to be on that edge that he speaks of so fondly. So yeah, made us all for a reason. I pray, I do, that I will be able to act in such a way where I will facilitate that gift giving. And perhaps, first I'll get myself in order, then, family around me and all that, and I'll be able to expand my view and my knowledge and the radius of my influence little by little, centimeter by centimeter. But first I gotta get my shit together. Okay. XRP says, peace comes from understanding, not through force. Violence is the biggest form of ignorance. Well, okay, so I spoke of that already, and I think, well, I said what I think about that, and I think that we should not be violent. Nowadays, especially, we should not be violent. Adil says, it's Allah who gets the heart near to him. If he wills otherwise, it remains like you. May you see the truth. Amen. Amen means truth. Emet. May I see the truth. May it be so. XRP says, I don't agree with Hamas. Israel and the Jews should be protected. I really, really appreciate the sentiment, man. I don't agree with Hamas either. I think the innocent lives should be protected and then de-radicalized, deprogrammed, dry up all the brainwashing, all that Hamas suds that's in their brains. Kyle says to Sneezer, so all events are premeditated? Robert says, how did you celebrate Independence Day? Well, first of all, we had a barbecue at my parents' house, and it was I sang certain songs, and I put on, put some songs on. We were dancing, we were singing Independence Day music, Israeli modern day, good Israeli music. So that's how I did. Oh, and look, and a prayer, and in prayer. Not the traditional Hallel prayer that in Orthodox Judaism is recited, and other forms of Judaism. But I gave thanks, right, in my own words, in my own way. I prayed. I definitely prayed. It is a wonder of wonder, miracle of miracles, the state of Israel, with all of its flaws, with all of its insufficiencies and inadequacies and failures and atrocities that it also does commit at times. Well, in spite of all that, yes, definitely celebrate Independence Day. I did. Okay, Kyle, Sneezer says to Kyle, we only ever have one choice, to do and speak honestly, or to delay God's will. The delays are accounted for, but not exactly planned. All right. We only have one choice, honestly. Well, somebody can think that they are being honest and be honest and still be ignorant, and then they won't be ignorant anymore. But at the time of speaking, they could be doing it with all good intention and honesty. And if they are also humble, they will be able to receive and to learn, let's say, and expand their knowledge. Let's see. To do and speak honestly. I strive for that. I fail at it, but I strive for it. I do. That's the essence of being a mensch, right? Of being a man, in the sense of a virtuous individual. To do and speak honestly. I mean, what did Groucho Marx say? Right? The secret to life is honesty and fair dealing. If you can fake that, you've got it made. Oh, Groucho, you are missed. Okay, let's continue. Adil continues and says, Quran is the order given by the Creator Allah. Yes, so Muslims say. So good for you. XRP says, but your retaliation is uncalled for. Sorry, I'm going to stop right there. Uncalled for. Really? Okay. My country doesn't want to support it anymore, and I'm sorry, but the information era is exposing truths. The evidence is piling against Israel's king's motives. Once again, I'm just a small dumbass, and I wouldn't presume to know the political, the geopolitical, and domestic and foreign motives and factors that are involved. So many plates are spinning, so many wheels are turning, so many 10 moves ahead chess moves are being planned and are being executed, and I look, if we're talking about evidence against Israel, there was also tons of evidence for blood libels against Jews for many, for centuries. In different places, in Europe predominantly, if I'm not mistaken. And they had evidence, even though the Torah explicitly forbids Jews from eating blood. No, let's leave that aside. They took Christian children's blood and they made matzah with it. Kill them all. The evidence was piling up then as well. The era of information is also the era of AI and deepfake and all that crap that I know very little about. You know a lot more about it than I do, I think. So I'll take what you said. Uncalled for? Hardly. And I'll leave it at that. Sneezer, BMXer says to Sneezer, are you Jewish? If not, you're pagan or Gentile. So pagan for the Jew as pagan for the Christian is not the same thing according to BMXers and Sneezer. All right, well, let's see how this develops. I'd like to see. So Sneezer says that to Adil, it's to Arabs, not to every nation. I am inclined to agree. It is not for every nation. Arzu, G Volleyball, I think you've been here before. Good to see you again. Even if you weren't here before, hello, hi there, and hello, good to see you. Robert says to BMXers, I don't know if I said that. Do you skate? Sneezer says to BMXers, I'd adopted Jewish by Jesus, of course, but pagan is not Gentile. Yes, I was under the impression that it doesn't mean Gentile as well. But like I said, he quoted, I think he quoted a dictionary. He said the dictionary definition is so. Okay, let's continue. XRP. Oh, BMXer said to Robert, "I didn't say you said anything." Okay, then I guess we hashed it out there. Hi Arzu, love the name. Arzu sounds familiar, and I don't know because you were. I don't know if it's because you were here before or because that name basically sort of rings a bell. Hey, I've been on for just an hour now. Hooray! This is so much fun. I'm enjoying myself. I hope that I'm, you know, bringing even the tiniest, tiniest bit of value or entertainment or something that you're getting out of it. And I know that I am, and I appreciate your engagement and your, and your thoughts. Okay, I think you have the Kavorka, HN. Ooh, the Kavorka. I should be wearing a necklace of what is it? It's garlics, right? Garlic heads. I got the Kavorka, Jerry. Kavorka is animal magnetism for a man. I'm not phrasing it precisely. It was a Latvian Orthodox priest who talked to Cosmo Kramer about the Kavorka. Okay, I used to skate, BMXer says. Sneezer says to HN, that's me. I think the Chinese have an actual chess too. Go is more like checkers combined with chess. Voila. That's cool. Okay, so BMXers makes it clear and he says, I said somebody from North Carolina is skateboarding from there to California. So you're mixing me up, man. You're confusing me. This skateboarder and BMXer did meet. They didn't meet. They were together on the Joe Rogan show. They were independently on the Joe Rogan show. Neither of them was on the Joe Rogan show. And they got to California. One got to California and one got to New York. So they started at the southernmost point, or from North Carolina to California and southernmost to New York. So going east and west, but they met on the way. The geography, does it add up? Okay, I don't know. I'm sorry that I'm not getting you, man. Okay. XRP says Christianity has pulled away from God. Dude, that's a bold statement. The entire Christian faith en masse, like everything, all of it? Christians shouldn't practice idolatry. I am Sephardi Christian. I can't stand all the saint worship. Just love God. Keep it simple, stupid. It's all Avram. Well, who was it? Was it Isaiah? I think it was Isaiah. Echad haya Avraham. One was Abraham. He's telling the children of Israel, Avram, right? Abraham, Avram, was one dude, and look what he did with his life, and look how far it has taken us. Look what he did, right? With his faith, with his belief. And he was a mensch. Okay. Adil says, lots of ignorance. May Allah grant you iman, right? Wisdom. Assuming that's wisdom. Well, okay, I am ignorant in a lot of things. There's more of what I don't know than what I do know. So technically even, I'm ignorant of most things. That means lots of ignorance. As for Allah granting me wisdom or iman, yeah, may it be so. Lu Yahi. Lu Yahi. Or inshallah. Right, if it's God's will. Sneezer says to XRP, God made creators to create and loves all we've created in its place. I don't get the end of that. God made creators to create and loves all we've created in its place. In the place of God or in the place of creation? Am I overthinking it? I'm not following you. But you're talking to XRP and not me, so it doesn't matter. Moving right along. Sneezer says, BMX said to Sneezer, you what? If you don't follow Judaism, you're not Jewish. Means if you're not Jewish, you're pagan or Gentile. Right, of the nations. Paganism aside, religion aside, a Gentile means of the nations that are not of the Hebrew tribes. That's it. It's Hebrew tribes and other nations. Kyle said to Sneezer, the delays are being accounted, but not planned. How does that work? Sneezer says to BMXers, Jewish is also a bloodline. It's also a bloodline, and there's conversion, yes. Robert asks, was Absalom the most unrighteous Nazarite? Oof, look, who am I to go against who was the crown prince, or, well, he was a contender for the throne at any rate. And when he died, and how David mourns him, Avshalom bni vni, it should have been me, Avshalom, my son, my son. Oh, it's heartbreaking. And the conflict between them, and Avshalom showed up, but he didn't come to see the king for years. There was such a rift between them. To call anyone unrighteous, I have no idea. Far be it from me to say. As for his Nazariteship, I'm sure that the princes and princesses, the princes and princesses were given the Nazarite vow from birth. When they came of age, their bar or bat mitzvah, 13 or 12 respectively, then they could choose whether to complete the vow and bring the sacrifices and stop the Nazarite vow until they choose to take it again in whatever context or path, or to keep this vow from birth on them. As far as I know, Avshalom decided to keep the vow. And first, I think that says a lot. So, righteous or unrighteous, I don't know. Because I don't know his Nazariteship like that. We're not the same type of Nazarite. So I don't know. But it's a sad story. Avshalom, he wanted to be king. He was gonna be king. And he died, he rebelled, and he died. And not in a great way either. Died because his hair got stuck in a tree. Tachat ha'elah, if I'm not mistaken, in an elah tree. What do you think, people in the chat, or Robert, was Absalom the most unrighteous Nazarite? What do you consider to be righteous? Do you have a definition? Because there is a halachic sort of definition in some ways of what righteous is versus what a chassid is, right? Somebody who's not necessarily a chassid of a chassidic sect, but somebody who goes beyond the call of duty, as it were. Kyle says, Sneer says to Kyle, very paradoxically, God loves paradoxes. I agree. There is a revelation of paradoxes in creation that is great and many. Read Quran, you will get real guidance, said Adil. You know what? I might be stupid and ignorant and an idiot, but I feel and see in my life, like on the ground, that the guidance that I'm getting is real. Now, is it the final word, as you call the Quran? It's not the final word. But is it Torah? Yes, it's Torah. Has it been the Hebrew Torah for thousands of years? Yes, it has. That's what I'm going with. And like I said, if at some point in life it comes and I am enlightened and I'm elevated and I stop being stupid and I'm no longer ignorant and that wisdom calls me to this, that, or the other, the Hebrew covenant sticks with me for life, but I don't rule out others, other wisdom. So take that, do with it what you will. But I do believe the guidance I'm getting, by the way, this is no reflection of whether or not I'm able to actually take that guidance and run with it 100%, because I'm not. There are no absolutes. But as for the guidance that I'm getting from the Torah and from creation around me, I believe it is real. And I believe it is having a real effect on me. And I hope that I'm able to become more real myself, to see myself, as you said, as a result of that encounter. Caesar says to Kyle, to be more precise, we must always return to the path. How long depends on how honest we are. How long depends on how honest we are. To return to the path. Right, so return means tshuva, lashuv, to return. Right, to repent, to return, because you are returning to yourself, to who you truly are. And you're able to manifest that image of God in fullness, or as full as you can be. It's an ideal that keeps on getting further and further away from you, the more you go. Correct yourself, then go to world. I'm not sure what you're saying that in connection with. I don't presume to have any knowledge or wisdom or anything that I'm supposed to be. I'm not correcting anyone here. I'm an explorer. We're conversing. It's a dialogue. I'm not here to correct anybody but myself. This is part of that process. So, once again, do with that what you will. As for going to the world, if my radius of influence should expand globally, well, if it comes to that somehow, then we'll see what happens. But yes, definitely correct yourself, then go to world. Or what's called kshot atzmecha ve'achar kach kshot achirim, right? Judge yourself, let's say, bring the truth out within yourself, and then seek the truth, right? And then correct others, as it were, on that truth, on what truth is. Robert says, I seen some pretty cheap tickets to Israel. Really? Are you considering coming for a visit? I'd love to sit down and have a coffee with you, man. BMXer says to Adil, I did, right? He read the Quran. Didn't get any guidance from it that I didn't get from the Torah or my conscience. That's a good way to put it. I hear you. Sneezer says to Robert, when I looked, it was like $2,000, $2,000. Kyle says to Sneezer, honest in what regard? It depends on how honest we are, Sneezer says. Honest in what regard? Kyle asked. Wow, 800 apiece for a ticket, says Robert. Voila. That's a pretty good deal. That's a pretty good deal. Sneezer says to Kyle, LOL, there's only one honest. We are all delusional, but when honest about it, we can learn to overcome. Yes. Yes, know thyself, right? That opens the door. That opens all the doors. That opens many doors. Bringing that image of God to the foreground and manifesting it in your life, in your behavior, in how you think, and having it inform you. It can definitely change your life and help you to overcome delusion and help you overcome falsity or falsehood, falsehoods, plural. But it's not a light switch. It's, for me anyway, it's not a light switch. It's a process. And once again, this does not necessarily excuse my foolery and ignorance, but it's something that I also need to keep in mind. I'm going to berate myself all day for not being what people on the internet expect me to do or be? No. Ariel says, assuming the nations of the world promised us peace if we did not take up sword against them, do you really believe that they would keep their word and not come up with false flag justification? See, that's the thing. If the world did that, and it would be somehow hermetically sealed, assured, absolutely no failure, none. There is some sort of assurance. I don't know how, don't ask me, because we would definitely necessitate it to make this move. But if it does, do I believe? No. No, I don't think so. I think I would have to take more than their word. It would have to be more than their word because history is kind of, it has a way of showing you stuff when you look back. So no, I don't think they would keep their word. On the other hand, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? Kyle says to Sneezer, is the path to overcome our delusions? Yes, honesty, he says, is the path to overcome our delusions. That's what he's saying. All paths lead to understanding, he answers. Some far less painful than others. Yes, I concur with that as well. That idea of understanding, of lehavin in Hebrew, has to do with bina. Bina, unlike knowledge, right? Understanding is more correlated with wisdom, meaning knowledge is X, and wisdom, or bina, right, understanding, is what you take from it and are able then to, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I guess you're able to extrapolate from that original nugget of knowledge and something that you were made aware of, you're able to take it to the next level and have it trickle down, right, again, into your life, into your thoughts, into your behavior. Understanding many times has to do with humility. Because in order to understand something, many times you need to really listen and pay attention. And that means that you need to humble yourself and say, yes, I need to pay attention to this now. I need to understand something. I'm ignorant about something. There's some connection that I need to be making here. So yeah, some are far less painful than others, I agree. BMXer says, by the way, we should sing at the end of this. There he goes again, but not with fishnets on and dreadlocks as his hair. I don't see myself singing that, but if you want to, go right ahead, BMXers. Sneezer says to him, I'll be saying thanks for all the fish, followed by the song that never ends, again. Is this the song that doesn't? You saw tampons in the men's bathroom in Seattle. Wait. You saw tampons that were for sale, or they were just strewn about the floor, or they were in the garbage, or... I'm assuming that they were, they're like complimentary or for sale? That's cool. I mean, why wouldn't they be? You get them for the missus. Whoops, misread this as time. Okay. Sneezer says to me, no, I'd in fact argue you broadcasting Q&A to the world is seeking. Kavorka, the lure of the animal. That's what he said, yes. Okay. Bright Times. That's a nice username. Hi, Bright Times. Good to see you. He said, yes, stick to the straight and narrow path. If you're doing that, then you're on the right and truthful path. Well, I'll tell you, you could also go straight and narrowly into a wall. You know? I still need to be able to discern. I can't do things blindly. Or at least most things. I still want to approach things with a critical eye. I still want to approach things with having something to say in the matter. And bring myself to bear on it, you know? And so you could say, oh, who are you to do that? It's like, I'm me. I'm the only me that there is. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? But I appreciate the sentiment, Bright Times. I do. Sneezer says, and I think the truth would burn like fire to at least a short-term insanity. That's what Jesus died to help with. So the truth would burn like fire to at least a short-term insanity. Truth would make one insane? Do you mean to say it's like too much oil which puts out the burning wick? Right? Too much oil puts out the candle? Kyle says to Sneezer, so what are we trying to understand? Ariel says, agreed. In some situations, you are better off with more firepower, but most people, said Ariel, never face these situations when they are not perceived as a threat. Well, look, if nobody's perceived as a threat, and there's even a cold and distant peace, a laying down of the arms, that's a different story altogether. Slosses says, free Palestine. I agree. Free Palestine from Hamas. Free Palestine from terrorism. Free Palestine from religious extremism and radical suicide death cults. Free Palestine from all of that. Thank you, Slav for supporting the IDF. Thank you for supporting Israel. I really appreciate it. Okay, Sneezer says to Kyle, only everything? That's what I thought. I said you're going to say everything. Sneezer says, but more importantly, ourselves. Yes. Know thyself. Know thyself. Robert says, does anybody here believe in Sasquatch? All my friends do. Sneezer says to him, I've seen a lot weirder than big old Bigfoot. BMXer said, no, not Joe Rogan, just the BMXers who was on there, who told them he met that skateboarder on his travels. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Joe Rogan skateboarder BMXer saga complete. Oh, I feel a sense of completion. I feel that this was a good thing. Thank you, BMXers with dreadlocks. It was a fine story. And truly lovely that they would meet each other on the path, if that is indeed what happened. Absolutely, Robert, says Ariel. He loves commenting on HN's channel. Yes, indeed, he does. BMXers has been commenting on the channel for, years. So that's cool. I appreciate the engagement and the comments. I may not get to respond to each and every one, but I try to like and heart them when they come in, because I appreciate the time it takes to make a comment. Occasionally, I'll even get into a back and forth, because that's also what I'm here for, here and in the comments. Okay. Kyle says to Sneezer, so are we trying to understand the world around us and the fractal of it within? And he answered the fractal, the world around us and the fractal of it within. Yes, I hear you. Ariel says we're kindred spirits. Sneezer says to Kyle, you could spend many eternities studying either direction, but eventually they loop. I'm thinking there's something to that. You're right. Oh, pardon me. Suahil Mustafa says, bro, what is your opinion on killing childrens? I don't like killing childrens. I've never done it myself. I try to raise childrens and not kill them. So my opinion is that if you can avoid it, you should not kill children. That's my opinion. Yes. Sneezer says to him, nobody here supports killing kids. Please answer me, he says. So why Israel is doing it again and again? Once again, Hamas is using children, non-combatants, as human shields, building their terror tunnels underneath hospitals, putting their bombs and weaponry and armaments in mosques, doing everything and putting hostages in people's homes and masquerading as the civilian population, right? Or, well, not masquerading, though I don't doubt sometimes they do. But what is Israel to do? What is the IDF to do? We have done plenty as an army in order to tell the non-combatants, get out of there. Hamas sometimes doesn't let them evacuate either. So nobody here is for killing kids. And if there was a way to avoid it, oh, wait a minute, I know. Tell your Hamas buddies to lay down their arms, release the hostages, and we can have peace on Israel's terms, real peace. Yes. Okay. Ariel says, I think there is plenty of historical references that make it likely that sassy exists. Sassy? Sneezer says to Mustafa, not targeting kids. Cowards hide among kids and the careless. And the careless miss. Okay. He says, why they don't care about children's and many innocent lives. Dude, you're way off. Israel, that's it. All of Israel, all of the millions of people, none of them care about kids. How much sense does that make? In a country that has the highest rate of fertility in the Western world, I might add, no, kill all the kids. Screw them, right? That's what you think that all of Israel thinks. Good luck with that. Hey, okay. So you can kill those kids? All right. Hopefully somebody addressed him, because, You realize my dumbass American nation heavily funds your country. Yes, you do. You do. I'm not saying America should. America considers Israel to be an ally. They share a lot of resources and whatnot, and technology, information. So there's an alliance of sorts between Israel and America. Each have their own agenda, each have their own interests, each have their own considerations. But there is, there's reciprocity going on in some way or another. You can bet that American leadership wouldn't just be spilling money into Israel if there wasn't something in it for America. Usually when it funds the military, it's for the military to buy equipment from the United States. Just saying. As far as I know, that might not be the case now, but okay. Sneezer says to Mustafa, why do those children hold guns and chant death to Israel? Not all, of course. A just question, Sneezer. He says, if a terrorist hide behind a kid, you can kill that kid to kill that terrorist? Philosophy 101 here. Hey, hot take. The terrorist should not be hiding behind the kid. Wouldn't you say that's on the terrorist? It's not Nobody says you can, in the sense of, oh yeah, then that's allowed and it's all good, not a problem, screw him. No, it's the terrorist that shouldn't be using the kid. Can you not see that? You're seriously asking this question. If he hides behind a kid, does that mean you kill the kid? Sometimes, because he shouldn't be doing that, and his blood is on his hands, not the shooter. And you can be damn sure that that shooter did everything in his or her, you know, you're not going to think that, so okay. Let's see. It's been a while, Robert, but certainly lots in the Tanakh. Very much so. Mustafa says, what is the difference between you and terrorists? I tire from having to listen to this. You know what I'm saying? And yet, I will calmly address it for the millionth time. The difference between Israel, the IDF, and terrorists is that Israel is an army that adheres to the best of its ability to international law. The terrorists don't. Israel is trying to protect the women and children, and the terrorists don't. Israel does not use women and children and non-combatants as human shields, and the terrorists do. Israel invested money in its population and made defensive weaponry in order to foil attacks. And Hamas takes weapons, takes money that's meant for the civilian population, and instead of investing in infrastructure, education, and things that the people need, bomb shelters, instead of, they dig a land of tunnels for their fighters and their weaponry and their rockets and for hostages. The difference between you and the terrorists. What's the difference? You really see no difference whatsoever. If you look at it objectively, even for a moment, you would see how ridiculous that question is. There was only one time and one time only where Israel, and not even Israel, there was no state of Israel, but a large collection, let's say, of resistance Jews during the British Mandate, right? Etze, Lechi, Hagana, Irgun, all of that, Palmach. They were considered terrorist groups by the British Mandate. They called in bomb threats and bombed a hotel or two. You know what I'm saying? They assassinated British, was it policemen, noblemen, people in charge? I don't recall. Assassinated or were going to assassinate. Jews were hung by the neck until dead, right? Put to death for their, according to the British, terrorist actions. Once the State of Israel was formed, all of those organizations, Lechi, Etzel, Irgun, Palmach, Hagana, whatever, were disbanded. They became illegal, and only Tzahal became the legal military organization of the state. So even though there was a time when one can argue we engaged in terrorism, it was before 1948. It was against the British. When it comes to the Arabs, Muslims, right, who were there at the time, the 1929 massacre of Hebron maybe means nothing to you, but it shows very clearly that before a lot of things went down, there was no love lost between the Hebrews and the Muslims. So if you need to ask what is the difference between Israel and terrorists, you know nothing of Israel, nothing of terrorists. I'm sorry to say. Not to say that I know the complete picture, far from it. I wouldn't presume to say that in the least. But I live here, and have lived here all my life pretty much, and I know the difference. I've seen it with my own eyes. Can you name the last time that an IDF soldier boarded a bus full of Muslims and innocent bystanding, right? Regular pedestrians, Joe and Joette Muslim, and killed himself? Could you name one time when that happened? Just one. Give me one. Thank you. Let's continue. Oh man, you know what? It's 11 p.m. I think I'm going to say goodnight. Yeah, it's been an hour and a half. So look, Mustafa, who to his credit is trying to engage in calm and civil discourse, so more credit to you. I hope you're still watching, because you wrote what you wrote just now at 10:15, which was 45 minutes ago. God willing, may it be the will of Adonai, a revelation of goodwill that will say, hey, Jonathan, you're going to go live sometime next week, sometime again during this coming week and this week. In other words, what I'm trying to stupidly, long-windedly say is that I'm going to go now. I've been on for an hour and a half. I thank each and every one of you. And I will continue this chat the next time I go live, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, maybe next week. I don't know. But when I do, I would love to continue this conversation, and I will. It's 11 p.m. Thank you, each and every one of you, those watching now, those watching later, your subs, your likes, your views, your engagement, the wisdom that you are imparting, right? And the knowledge that you are sharing, it means a lot to me. I don't take it for granted that you'd be sitting here. I press go live, and there's people here, and there's interaction here, and there's an exchange of ideas here. And we're discussing war, and we're discussing philosophy, and we're discussing religion and psychology, and we're discussing the conflict, and we're discussing world peace and justice and truth. And the aim of this channel, as I see it, is to try and bring those things down to the ground. Where does it meet me? Where does the rubber meet that proverbial road? So I will finish now by saying that I hope and pray that I will be able to act, to behave in such a way that I will be able to elevate my spirit and widen my consciousness and my understanding and the wisdom, and that will inform me, and I will be able to be a better man for it and do my little bit in, me being just a simple dumbass in the Middle East, to do my own little bit to bridge some gaps, to be blessed and be a blessing to others. And I wish the same for you. Wherever you are, whoever you are, be blessed, be a blessing to others. I will see you next time. Good night from Jerusalem. This was fun.